Something about this year's training camp just feels different, and it's not just the energy. When CeeDee Lamb talked to the media after practice, you could hear it in his voice. There's a shift happening inside this offense, and according to Lamb, it's night and day from what we saw last year. Now, that's not just hype. That's a WR1 speaking from real experience built through frustration, double teams, and having to carry an offense with almost no help last season. And for the first time in a while, it sounds like he's got real support. Lamb made it clear, with George Pickens lining up across from him, defenses can't afford to just focus on one guy anymore. Last season, he was constantly facing double coverage. That's because Brandon Cooks was clearly past his prime, and the other young guys, like Jalen Tolbert and Jalen Brooks, weren't putting any fear in secondaries. But now, when Lamb sees two defenders shading toward him, he knows the ball is probably going to Pickens. And he loves that. It opens things up. It gives Dak options. It forces defenses to pick their poison. That's a luxury Lamb hasn't had since he got to Dallas. But here's the real takeaway: separation. Lamb pointed out just how bad it was last year. The Cowboys were among the worst in the league when it came to receivers creating space. And that's a killer. If you're constantly catching passes with a defender draped all over you, every throw is high risk. Tight windows. No margin for error. That's tough even for elite QBs, and it's brutal over a 17-game season. But now, with better route spacing and another big-name target on the field, it's a whole different story. The timing is sharper. The execution is smoother. It finally looks like an offense that isn't trying to win every game with one guy. And let me ask you this: do you think George Pickens will actually take enough pressure off Lamb to change how defenses play the Cowboys? Let me know in the comments. I'm genuinely curious what you're seeing in these camp clips. And hey, if you're excited about this new offense, this new look, this new energy, do me a favor and hit that like button. We're pushing for 16,000 subscribers, and every click helps us get there. Because if Lamb's right and this really is night and day from last year, then we're not just talking about stat sheets. We're talking about real, tangible growth. And that's the kind of change that wins playoff games. Sometimes, growth doesn't happen on the field, it happens in a moment. And for CeeDee Lamb, that moment might have come in one of the most unexpected places: a podcast. If you haven't heard the conversation he had with Micah Parsons, you need to find it. Because it wasn't just two teammates chopping it up. It was raw, honest, a little uncomfortable. And it just might have changed the trajectory of CeeDee's entire career. Micah came straight at him with the tough questions about leadership, responsibility, and whether guys like them are really ready to carry the future of the Dallas Cowboys. Not just as playmakers, but as faces of the franchise. And CeeDee didn't dodge a single thing. He didn't sugarcoat. He didn't shift blame. He said, point blank, "I've got to grow up." That's not a sound bite. That's a turning point. He admitted that his frustration used to get the best of him: body language, sideline energy, shutting down in tough moments. You know the look. We've all seen it. You're down 2 scores, and instead of rallying the offense, your star receiver is sitting on the bench, arms folded, head down. CeeDee owned that. And then he went further. He said if he wants to wear the WR1 label, if he wants to be the guy, he's got to step up. Be vocal. Communicate. Led not just by example, but with presence. And that's powerful. Because that's exactly what this team has needed. You can't ask Dak Prescott to carry it all on his shoulders. The pressure he faces every week, every throw, it's enormous. CeeDee recognized that. He even said it himself: Dak already has so much on his plate. He's not wrong. Being QB1 for the Dallas Cowboys might be the hardest job in football. It takes more than talent around you, it takes real leadership. And now Lamb wants to be one of those guys helping shoulder the weight. The thing is, we don't always get this kind of transparency from players. Especially star players. So let me ask you, did you watch or listen to that podcast when it dropped? What was your reaction to CeeDee's honesty? I want to hear from you in the comments. And while you're down there, drop a one-word reaction to Lamb's response. Mature? Respect? Finally? Whatever comes to mind. I'll be reading through them. Because this wasn't just a media moment. This was a man realizing his role and deciding to grow into it. And if that mindset carries into the season, this offense won't just be better. It'll be different at its core. You know, it's one thing to talk about leadership, it's another thing to live it. And what we're seeing right now from CeeDee Lamb isn't just a more mature version of a great receiver. We're seeing a guy who's actively transforming into the face of the Dallas Cowboys. Not just on the field with flashy plays or numbers on a stat sheet, but in how he carries himself, how he talks about the team, and how he holds himself accountable. This offseason, CeeDee's taken it personally. You can tell. It's in his words, in his body language, in the way he talks about uplifting the receivers around him. He knows what's expected of him now. He's not the young guy learning the ropes anymore, he's the leader of the receiver room. And he's not just trying to get open or make big catches. He's trying to rally the group, guide Dak, and make sure that when adversity hits, they don't fall apart on the sideline. That kind of self-awareness doesn't come easy. It's earned. Think about where this team was during that brutal Green Bay playoff loss. Total collapse. Missed opportunities. Bad energy. And Lamb? He was frustrated. He admits it. But now, instead of just internalizing it or getting quiet, he's talking about being the guy who brings the group together. Telling Dak what he's seeing. Encouraging other receivers to step up. Leading the huddle when things aren't going well. That's the difference. That's what this team has needed. And that kind of leadership, especially from your WR1, changes everything. Because when your top playmaker brings that fire and that focus, it trickles down. It pushes everyone. It holds the offense to a higher standard. And you can bet that's going to help Dak, too. CeeDee made that clear, this isn't just about him becoming a better player. It's about making life easier for his quarterback. Taking some of the burden off Dak's shoulders. Being the spark when the offense stalls. Being a true number one in every sense. Let me throw this your way, do you believe CeeDee Lamb is ready to lead this wide receiver group all the way through the season? I'm talking real leadership, not just production. Let me know in the comments. I want to hear if you're seeing the same growth I am. And hey, if you're believing in this offense, if you're feeling the shift, help push this video to 1,000 likes. We're building something real here, and it starts with fans like you backing it. Because this isn't just about football, it's about identity. And right now, CeeDee Lamb is finally stepping into the role he was meant to play. For years now, we've heard it, this team has all the talent in the world. On paper, they're stacked. But talent alone doesn't win championships. And CeeDee Lamb made that crystal clear after practice when he echoed what offensive coordinator Brian Schottenheimer told the team. It's not about talent anymore. It's about discipline. About not beating yourself. About finally playing clean, consistent football and doing it when it matters most. At that same practice, there were not one, not two, but 3 fights that broke out. And Schottenheimer had seen enough. He went off on the entire offense. And it wasn't just yelling for the sake of yelling. He was sending a message. You want to be champions? Then stop making things harder on yourselves. Play smart. Stay focused. Be accountable. And that message hit home with CeeDee. He came out of that practice with a very pointed statement. Throughout the years of us being here, talent was never the problem, he said. It was always discipline. And he's right. Think back to that playoff game against the Niners. 14 penalties. 14. That wasn't San Francisco dominating the Cowboys. That was Dallas sabotaging Dallas. Pre-snap mistakes, late hits, mental lapses. And it all came down to one thing: focus. Or the lack of it. Ceedee even brought up the moment when the defense had finally started to get stops, and then Randy Gregory tackled an offensive lineman for no reason, giving the Niners a fresh set of downs. That's the stuff Schottenheimer's talking about. Those are the moments that cost you games. And Ceedee knows it. You could hear the frustration in his voice. Not just because they lost, but because they beat themselves again. And honestly, this is the kind of mindset that gives me hope. Not empty confidence. Not locker room quotes for the cameras. But real accountability. A recognition that if the Cowboys want to stop being a talented team and start being a dangerous one, they've got to stop the bleeding from within. So let me ask you this: do you think discipline, not talent, has been the Cowboys' biggest problem the last few years? Let's get your thoughts in the comments. And hit that subscribe button if you're ready to see this team actually clean things up and play smart for once. We're pushing for 16,000 strong, and your support means everything. Because now the message is clear. Stop the self-inflicted wounds. Grow up. Play for each other. And win the games you're supposed to win. There's something to be said about hitting the reset button, not just physically, but mentally. And that's exactly what CeeDee Lamb has done this offseason. After carrying such a heavy load last year, after all the frustration, the pressure, the lack of help, he's finally had a chance to slow down, refocus, and come back sharper. And you can feel that difference already. In the way he talks. In the way he practices. In the way he views his role in this offense. It's not about just showing up anymore, it's about showing others the way. And now, with George Pickens drawing attention on the outside, it opens up a completely new layer to what this passing attack can be. CeeDee isn't getting doubled on every play like he was last year. Defenses are going to have to choose, and no matter who they choose, Dak's going to have a mismatch somewhere. That's not just scheme. That's pressure relief. That's balance. And that's what lets an offense finally become what it was meant to be. This new look receiving core may not be loaded with stars from top to bottom, but it finally has a clear identity. And that starts with Lamb. He's more vocal. He's more involved. He's mentoring younger guys. He's embracing the mental side of the game like never before. He even talked about helping Pickens grow, helping him channel his own energy and develop into a real threat. That's not just a veteran move. That's leadership. And the truth is, you can't build a championship team without players like that. Guys who've been through the rough patches and come out smarter. Guys who understand that talent only takes you so far and that the next step requires something deeper. CeeDee Lamb's taking that step now. And if the rest of this offense follows his lead, the Cowboys could finally have something fans have been waiting on for years: a real, explosive identity that doesn't collapse in the big moments. So I'll ask you, do you think this will be CeeDee Lamb's best season yet? Will this be the year he fully steps into greatness? Not just as a receiver, but as a tone setter for the entire team? Drop your take in the comments below. And if you're riding with CeeDee this season, go ahead and subscribe. We're almost at 16,000 subscribers, and with fans like you, we'll hit that mark in no time. Let's grow this Cowboys community together. Because if what we're seeing from Lamb now is just the beginning, this offense might finally be ready to turn the corner. And this time, it might actually last.